So hey, we were talking about Treehouse of Horror earlier. Maybe if Futurama had like a specifically supernatural Treehouse of Horror equivalent rather than the catch-all anthology of interest, maybe the Honking would have made a nice bloody segment about Bender turning into a car and just running down the Planet Express crew. But as it stands, it just is one of these like exceptionally silly episodes where it puts a supernatural premise in a nominally sci-fi story and has to shoehorn it in with an episode being about Fry and Bender's relationship, and it's
Yeah, that's very
it's
clunky.
dumb, and it kind of is dumb in my opinion.
Oh.
And this is one of my, I don't hate it, but it's probably one of my least favorite episodes of the classic run.
It's funny you bring up anthology because when I was watching this episode, because we were watching these episodes at the same time, I never really quite put two and two together, but I was thinking while watching The Honking that this was an anthology of interest segment that didn't quite make the cut of that, and they expanded it out. It feels like that, eh?
It could be.
Yeah, because the premise would have worked for a shorter sort of segment, perhaps. A bit wacky, but it's just so clunky, like you mentioned with the third act resolution thing, but also the first act setup. It feels like that cliche Simpsons thing where there'll be one premise and then suddenly that leads to a completely different premise, and that's what the episode's about. This one starts with like a Transylvania ghost thing. It resolves straight away with some somewhat funny dialogue about the professor doing the jargon, sci-fi jargon and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then it just immediately goes to Weka. And you still get an exposition dumps by the third act about what the devil car is, you know. There's some fun stuff, but yeah, weak episode. Yeah.
One of the more fascinating things about the Honking is that like coin-operated gypsy character rocks up a couple times later on.
Yeah, this is her first appearance, I guess.
Yeah.
She's an okay character. It's just a big parody, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't even think about that. I guess it makes sense because this is parodying some of werewolf films that were popular in the 80s, like The Howling, Werewolf in London, Company of Wolves, Silver Bullet. Those sort of films are really big in the, obviously, Honking Howling.
Oh, and like the Michael J. Fox one, right?
Teen Wolf, obviously the extended Thriller video.
That's true.
Heaps of werewolf stuff.
Yeah, the Thriller video.
Because people talk about the vampire revival in the late 80s with Lost Boys and all that
The
stuff.
mid-80s werewolf craze, wow.
Oh, yeah, no, werewolf from 81 to like 85.
Yeah.
80, Teen Wolf,
Yeah, Werewolf
86.
in London.
That's 81, you know.
Yeah.
It's, so yeah, you can see it as downstream of that. But, you know, and what's interesting is that the actual werewolf car component is, because they laugh off the initial supernatural haunting as science fiction, but then the werewolf is supernatural. Like it's odd. Like it's a kitless wheel.
Yeah.
Night Riders windscreen wipers, which are actually evil.
But it was a scientific project to create something supernatural. I guess like a Frankenstein monster.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it's very clunky and not too. Yeah. If the last episode was cut and paste, this one is even more so.
It just feels like, they have to write a structure around this premise, and I mean, I guess they just, once they were accelerating, they just had to keep going. They couldn't put the brakes on it.
Yeah. Pun intended. One thing about this episode, though, like, I never even realized it was an episode. I forgot about it. Like, unlike it's the anti-Poplars. It's never in syndication, or it never was. And unless you really, like, repeat watch the DVDs, you're going to forget about it. Cause I honestly can't believe that it's an episode. It's just...
Yeah.
Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. But it's just plain.
It's kind of feels flat and unmemorable to me. And it just seems like one of the... As I said, one of the weaker premises that...
Like, I'm sorry if this is someone's favourite episode. If it is somebody's, I'd love to hear why.
I remember out loud, like, criticizing the episode, and, you know, someone with me was like, oh, no, I love that, you know, so, you know, like,
it'd be interesting, to see someone's perspective on why this is
pull the reins back a bit on the criticism of it.
Yeah, well, no, there's plenty to criticize. I'm just curious, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, there's just...
Because it's the sort of thing where I didn't think I'd have this much to say about it, but come to think of it, it's the sort of thing where you just either disregard it completely, or you could really, like, stretch it out and have, like, 3 hours to say about what goes wrong with this one, you know?
You could either declare it one of the weakest of Season 2, one of the weakest of the 4 seasons in general, and it's definitely one of the weakest of Season 2, but, overall. It's not weaker than Leela of Her Own or even Route of All Evil.
Yeah.
There's even some like Spanish Fry and like to some degree Kip gets knocked up a notch, which I just and they're season 4. But
Yeah, this reminds me a bit of Spanish Fry, where I almost forgot about that one as well. It's just a bit forgettable.
It's like what a premise, you know what I mean? Like, yikes.
Yeah, it's not particularly funny, and the sort of gross out isn't that funny.
It's surrounded by genius episodes like Powerbox.
Yeah,
Stuff like 300 Big Boys.
That doesn't help.
Hands, Wire Fry, et al. Sting, so it just doesn't help. Yeah, as you said. I don't know if we're going to have much to share about the honking.
Nah, I don't want to do the 3 hours right now.
Please, let's not. Thanks, everyone.